happen to be watching this. For me, it's mid-afternoon in Texas, and it's 101 degrees. It's not great, but I'm excited because I'm finally going to get a chance to work on the Fiero again. So when I put this car together I've been working on this car, I've had this thing about 12 years, but when I put the fuel injection system that's on it, it was in about 2018. And it's been a pretty okay system. It's a FiTech 30003-400 EFI unit. It works pretty well. At the time that I did it, it was the only viable EFI swap that was simple. I mean, you had Mega Squirt and things like that, but those all involved a little more in-depth work. This was a self-learning, self-tuning EFI, and it's worked pretty well for quite some time. FiTech's customer service has been a little up, a little down over the years. But finally, my old controller that you actually put in all your stuff and read all your information went belly up. Be honest, that started probably back in whenever I put this engine together in 2019, or I was in a hurry and I slammed the door on the controller and smashed it, and the screen was never right after that. And it's been slowly getting worse and worse and worse. So I finally got with FiTech and I got a hold of them to see if I could upgrade or replace the display. And they did find one. They said, we make a new one. It has actually some new features and stuff like that, and it'll plug and play to your car. So we're going to swap that in today. This video is probably going to be a little shorter. I don't think it's going to be all that in depth. I basically have to run 2 wires through the console and mount the new controller. Fairly simple, but I'll give you a rundown on the EFI that's in it, kind of what's hooked up in here, and we'll kind of learn and play with the new controller and see what new features or what display stuff we have that we didn't have in the past. And whenever we get done, I'm going to also go ahead and get you updated on this engine swap that's going to go in the white car here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in here and I'll show you what we're dealing with. I'll show you what's wrong with the old display, and we'll get to work on it. Okay guys, let me show you what we've got going on with the old EFI controller. Sit down in here. So this is the old arrangement that I had before. You plug it back in. So I've been messing with this, trying to get it to work correctly. You're probably going to see right now it's going to flash on like that. Is it actually going to wake up this time? It did! It's extremely intermittent, and the bigger issue that we're running into is if I turn the key on, and let's see, I go to dashboard. Oh, yep, yeah. And then it goes to that. So this display is ruined, and that's obviously a problem. So pull that cord out. What we need to do is pull out all of this center console and run the cord through. It's really not complicated. In fact, if I recall, I think I just have it run under everything, and then I just pop this out and it'll just run right through. So let me go ahead and get in, pulling that out, and we'll get this set up. So if you're doing this in your car, you're going to need to, if you're removing any of this for any reason, you're going to need to remove some more stuff. I don't need to, because my car has been taken apart so many times and so much stuff has been removed over the years that it's here, but it's quick detach. You will have to remove these 2 screws, remove all of this. There's a set of screws here, and then get in here, pull all this stuff out of here. You're going to have a couple screws in here and the whole thing will come out. Mine, because I break stuff a lot, is quick detach. It gives me easy access to cords. Just gotta figure out where I ran that through. Looks like The only confusing thing here is I've got the power outlet still hooked up, and I just don't want to mess with that. But let's see, I'll move my ECM out of the way, and I should be able to just pull it straight through. So let's go to the back of the car and we'll pull the cord out. I'll show you. So these are the cords right here. This is how the ECM talks to our display. Just unplug them real quick. We should, I think we'll be able to just pull them right through. Again, this car's been messed with enough times, everything just kind of comes loose. Push that through. Cool. And that's our old connector. Now, the only reason we need to remove this is because our new one display uses a different cord. So, and it uses, instead of, so it connects to the ECM the same way, which the ECM is in here, but instead of using two connectors like so, it just uses a simple modern, I guess that's what, USB-C, whatever that is. But we just need to run that into the interior, put our controller where we want, and it should all work. So let me route this through. Work on routing it through. So I can figure out where I had this before. Kind of by feel. There, I think that'll work. Okay, let me see if I can pull that through from the interior. Yep. Here. Pull it through. We'll leave some out there, but I can route it kind of sort of how it's going to be. My old one was run just under all this carpet, up under here, and up through a groove, but I'm going to try, I think we're going to take some of this apart and run it up through the center stack. Let me button up the wiring in the back, and then we'll come back in here. Okay. Let's see, so there's our new set of cords, and we'll pull it through so we have what we want, but I think this can go, I think I had it routed before. Just through here. Got these. Should just plug and play. Cool. Alright, so now just need to tuck the wire one way or another. I think I'll just pull it through and we should be okay. I just need to make sure that it's not going to have we're not going to have it come to rest on one of the manifolds or something. It'd be a shame to burn up a brand new cord. Okay. This cord back through. And some of you might be wondering, well, why does he have a factory ECM in here? Well, the reason I have it in here is it's basically just a jumper. It allows what little bit I still use factory gauges for to just run information through. It's not actually doing anything important anymore for fuel management or RPM or anything. It's just sitting here as a jumper to allow like signals to come through for the speedometer and stuff. That's legitimately all it's doing anymore. Alright, that should be in place. Okay, so now let me put this in. So like I said, what I'm probably going to do here in just a second is pull this off. Let me grab, I think I've got the tool here. Let me see. And I don't actually. I remember it's going to be, I believe those are 7mm. It's off. 7 see if I can do this real quick. It's funny, you take these things apart enough times, memorize every bolt, every fastener, where it goes, what its size is. This off and see what we got. So, I want to run this. I want to get in. I wonder if I can get. I think I can. I just gotta get that off. A lot of these interior parts are becoming kind of unobtainium too. So if you're working in yours, be gentle with these. I don't use power tools on really any of these old interiors because they're too fragile. You can kind of use them for disassembly, but I would not use any power tool for reassembly of these old interiors. I just would not. Might end up pulling the radio out. If I look like I'm hot, it's because I am. It is, like I said at the beginning, it was about 101. It is now 104. It is a wee bit unpleasant here right now. Let's see, is it possible to just get up through there? It is. Just gotta get this routed. Let's see, I wonder, can I just... out away from the thing for a minute. I've noticed recently also they finally started selling these what they call the skeleton that runs all through here. If you have one of these cars and yours isn't broken, you need to be ultra careful with it, and chances are if you have one of these it is broken. I found mine in a car and swapped it because mine was all destroyed. They're available now. I think they're like $200. They're not cheap, but if your radios are all just radio and your climate controller just dangling in here because it's all broken, that's what you need. Let's see, I don't need a lot of room. I just need enough room. Alright, I managed to fish this cord up through here, and we'll tuck it in a second. What I want to do, let me get a first look at it real quick. This is going to be our new EFI controller. So I've put a little washer on the back, and I've got a magnet mount. I think it can live like that. And just tuck this cord. I'll plug it in, and it'll be plugged in, but it can just tuck back through that hole, and then we'll have everything we need right there. So, let's see here. Now, once this is, how hard is that to get? Okay, that is like that. Let me see if I can plug in. It might wake up here too, real quick. Plug it in. Oh, there it goes. It woke up. It's flashing. I don't know why it's flashing. Maybe because it's waking up. Try turning everything on. Let it flash for a minute, see if it figures itself out. In the meantime, start putting interior stuff back together. I don't know why it's flashing. So maybe it's installing the new software to the PCM or ECM. Who knows? I did check with FiTech though, because they make a big deal out of this controller that if you, apparently you can actually brick these things by giving them the wrong software update, which to me is kind of insane. But like according to the gentleman I spoke to there though, or at FiTech, said that really only matters if they're compatible with all the older units. The only time that matters is if you give them the wrong information and they send you a flash and it can brick it. But I still find that a little crazy that they've got something like that's possible. I'm plugging it again real quick and see if it stops doing what it's doing. Just plug it back in. Why it's flashing like that. Try cycling the key. I don't know if you can see that from where you're sitting. Let it keep doing it. I'll figure it out in a minute. Alright, let me put this guy back in. It's gonna be really nice if it works. It's a much larger display, it's nicer. I've even seen some photos. I think it can give you kind of like your information almost in like an analog gauge format, which would be pretty cool. But only cool if it works. So that's the other half of that equation. Still just flashing. Try starting it here in a second and see what it does. Get the interior back together. That'll do. Alright. Let's try. Make sure nothing's touching something it shouldn't. Okay, so let me show you what's going on here. So right now, what I'm trying to figure out if I can get enough light in here, the FiTech controller seems to function if it has an extra power outlet in it. I called FiTech, and the only answer I got, at least at the moment, is plug it into a computer, see if it comes on. If it comes on, you might have a cable problem. So I went ahead and emailed them, find out if it's a cable issue or what, but it does come on currently, so we can start the car. This is the kind of the new set of gauges that are kind of neat. So we can see our air to fuel ratio live, we can see our RPM, manifold air pressure, throttle position. Laggy, but it is working now. Let's see if I can turn the AC on. See what dip we get. I just finished uploading all the settings in it. I guess let me show you some of that. So if you go back here. Alright, so we've got a lot of different stuff in here. We can go, that's for gauges though. When we go in here, we've got EFI tuning, we've got initial setup. So right now we've got it set up where the way this system works is you're supposed to be able to tell this computer what your engine is, and it will manage it for you. It will manage air to fuel ratio and everything for you. So engine setup, we tell it that we've told it it's a 6-cylinder engine. Mine's bored out a little, so it's 180 cubes. Roughly from 1 to 4, it's got a little bit of a camshaft in it. Rev limited 6200, idle RPM 825 degrees. We don't care about ethanol. It's all fuel management. You go down here, I can go to fuel setup, I can go to idle setup, which is more what we need. We set our idle RPM at 825 RPM when it's warm, which is where we want it. Go back. We can set our fan control. So I've got my fan set right now to come on at 194, which is right when the thermostat opens, and to turn off at 168. So that way it will control the fan, try and keep it in a reasonable temperature range. AC control. This is set up to give me an RPM bump and to tell the computer that there's air conditioning, so that if we turn the air conditioning on, it'll bump the RPM and not stall, and hopefully react like it's supposed to, so it knows. We go back here, we go back, we go into, we can data log. Let's see what that looks like on here. Basic sensors, fuel learn values. There's a lot of useful information you can get out of in here. and a lot of adjustments you can make. Let's see, display setup. So you see it's learning, it's pumping RPM up. Alright. So I can go into sleep mode. Let's see, what else is in here? To mess with some of it later. Some of this stuff is new. It's not on my, it wasn't on my old one. We can see if we have any fault codes, if we have any, just like a check engine light for most modern cars, I can check that if I want. But yeah, like I said, I can go into tuning. One of the things you're actually going to want to do if you have one of these in a car, if you have a manual transmission, go in here to fuel cut and set this DFCO enable temp to like 300, 298 degrees, something, because you don't want it doing it. If it's an automatic transmission car, it's fine, but when it's a manual, what'll happen is you'll push the clutch, and I'm not exactly certain what this feature is meant to do, but it will do it, and it'll cut fuel away and stall the car. So just set that so it just doesn't even, it's not even a component anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much, if you want a little more, you can put accelerator pump in it. So if you tip in doesn't have, if your tip in is like not very responsive, you can add more, but mine's currently working fine. I can look at my AFR targets, and I can adjust these if I want, but these are the idle, or what it wants as far as air to fuel ratio at these various, so wide open throttle at that manifold air pressure, various manifold air pressures, those are what it wants as far as air to fuel ratio. So obviously, and it makes sense that idle would be 14.6, it's right about stoic, it's where you want to be. But this is a powerful tool that you can use when it's working correctly. I can go back in here to see large gauges, and I can set these. So I had that other one set up, but I can also set it to show me whatever I want normally. So if I want RPM, I want coolant temp, I want it to show me battery voltage. Those are the common ones you want. That's let's see, coolant temp, battery voltage, RPM. And AFR, right? And then I can go ahead and go to enter. It'll show me all of those live. So I can see what we're actually getting live. And I don't have to have just those other set of gauges. Those other new gauges are kind of neat though. So I go, still playing with it, try and go back to it. But it's kind of neat, but I need to figure out with FiTech what's going on that mine, for whatever reason, needs an additional power cord, because obviously that's not very slick. So, but I can go to the back and I can show you some of this system a little bit more and the way it's laid out. So let me show you a little more in depth what all kind of is going on here. So this right here, which looks to a lot of people when they run across it as a carburetor, is not. That is actually a throttle body fuel injection system. So the computer is in here, that's the brain, and then it has harnesses and wires that come out of it that run to various things. We've got fuses, these are all the fuses associated with it. It runs wires to basically anywhere and everywhere in the car, and they run out to everything. So we've got a coolant temp sensor just like you would if it was from the factory right here. We've got an oxygen sensor down there, just like if it were from the factory. We've got, let's see, what else? These run, that's the power cord for that, for the oxygen sensor. We run this, one of these, I believe it's this yellow wire. This goes actually down, you can't see it, but it runs all the way back in there and runs to the fuel pump. So that's actually what runs the fuel pump. The green wire runs to the fan up front. And the whole thing works as its own independent brain. So basically you just tell it, is it what kind of engine it's on top of, and
some basic parameters and turn the key, and when it fires up, it self-learns. It self-learns what it needs as far as air, as far as fuel, as far as spark advance, everything. Now, the only thing it's not really controlling, actually, I mentioned it, is spark advance. That's done through the distributor here, which is done, it's got sling weights in it, and it's more of a traditional HEI distributor. But other than that, that's all it is. And it's kind of an odd setup. I don't think I've ever seen another stock engine configuration, GM L44 V6, with this arrangement going on ever. So it's kind of just an oddball. It's something I've enjoyed building over the years. But with that being the case, let me show you one of the things that I was trying to diagnose, or one of the reasons I wanted to actually get this new controller. So I've been wanting to figure out for a while, right? This thing's been acting like it's not happy. So let me turn this on again now that it's kind of working. So you can see here we're reading, let me fire it up. So it'll flow the coolant. But so let's see if it comes down a little bit. .213, that's fine. 212. But I haven't been able to read this information effectively for a very long time because the display was so messed up. So now I have a display I can actually read. In any case, let's let it keep settling out. We'll go with 208. Well, we'll go with 200 degrees, right? Because it's supposed to be, it's going to be close to that, right? So it currently thinks that the engine coolant temp is 200 degrees, give or take. Well, if I actually take my temp gun and I reality check it, that's only 180 degrees on this upper hose. The coolant temp sensor itself is only 187 degrees. For, well, 192, but that's metal. 181, still, like, reading the temperature down in the engine valley is 190. But that's on the sheet metal. What you're looking for is the actual hoses. And we're still pretty much everywhere at 180 degrees. We're even at the lower down here, .173. So we're reading that temperature, but the car thinks it's at 204. So it's not wildly off, but it is off by a bit. And given that these sensors are getting kind of old, and I recently actually had to replace an oxygen sensor because it was bad, I'm going to go with, I think that the sensors are getting a little wonky. So it's probably time for a new coolant temp sensor. And the reason that matters is because if it thinks it's 20-30 degrees warmer, and it is, when it's down around 150-180 degrees, it doesn't really matter. But when you're up over 200, it's going to start pulling fuel away from it. It's going to start robbing power away from it because it's concerned that bad things are going to happen because it's going to overheat. So if it's not reading correctly, that's an issue. And you can tell because it disagrees with the factory gauge, which isn't reading exactly right itself. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. But so with that being the case, I need to get my answer from FiTech regarding whatever's going on with that power cord, and just delve into it a little bit for that coolant temp sensor. But otherwise, this thing's ready to hit the street again. Let me get you updated on what's going on with this thing. Okay guys, I'll just give you a quick update on how close we're actually getting to doing an engine swap. So as you can see, things are actually kind of progressing at a dangerously quick pace actually, but we're getting close. So the engine, well, let me look at the motor first. So this engine came to me from a friend of mine, and it had been pulled out of another vehicle and left for dead sitting in the yard. And at some point, somebody had tried to start this engine with water in it, and they hydrolocked it and they bent a rod. So it was just left out in the yard and it was supposed to be junk. Well, I got it, and me being who I am, that's my kind of thing. So I took it apart, found the bent rod, looked it over, and realized, well, maybe I can actually hone this thing out and give it another life. So that's where we are now. This project started probably about 8 or 9 months ago. This is actually going to be the engine that's going in Amy's Fiero. So what we did was I took it all down, cleaned it all up, verified what was wrong with it, found out that this motor's never been touched before. It had factory size bearings in it. It had a factory size bore in it. It's never been rebuilt. So it's a virgin block. So if it were to have issues that we actually needed to bore it, it would be easy to do. Now, I went through it and I found that I thought I could hone it. And I'll try, and I think I've got photos of what the bores look like. If I may try and inset them. If not, you'll see it when we go to actually build this thing. Right now, it's just kind of mocked together. It's not actually assembled. But me and Amy took it apart. We cleaned it up. We painted all of it. So this is probably actually going to be the only engine I've ever assembled and put together that has a completely cured paint. Like, this paint's been curing for 8-9 months. So it should come out, actually. Hopefully it will stick and we won't have any significant issues with flaking or anything like that. But so in any case, it's a factory 2.8 liter V6. We're going to be going back in with the stock rods, stock pistons. I did have to track down one replacement piston for it and rod, which luckily wasn't too expensive. I checked the rest of them. They all appear to be, at least eyeball, generally fine. It rotated smoothly once the bad piston was removed. And they're all in here. So I've got replacement pistons, or all the pistons ready to go back in. And coming over here, we have, in here, what's this? See, this is rod bearings, connecting rod bearings. So this will go with the pistons. And then we have a new set of rings for it. So that'll be cool. And then we're going back in with, yes, it's actually a comp. I had this laying around from a past engine build. I took it out. At the time, I didn't really trust it. And I just rebuilt an engine with a brand new cam. And I actually had another comp cam go flat, and that's the engine that's in this car. And then I went back with a Engine Tech street cam. But this camshaft has been broken in and ran fine. It ran for probably about 10,000 miles. So we're going to roll the dice a little bit on this, especially since this engine's rebuildable. We're going to do this on a budget, but add a little extra power if we can. This is an EFI friendly Comp 260 cam. It's pretty much, if anyone does a camshaft in a 60-degree V6, this is the one they do. And hopefully with a fresh set of lifters, we'll try and break it in. It should be okay. So taking us through that, that's going to be our comp cam. We've managed to track down a full set of exhaust for it. So these are factory manifolds, a full 88 dual exhaust for it. Now, here's something I'm going to have to figure out. This is a crossover pipe from an earlier car. So this is what, this end goes to the downpipe. And these go to either side of the engine. The engine would be in front of it. Now, what I'm looking at here with this is that I'm fairly certain that that needs to be in roughly that orientation, and row doesn't line up. So we have a welder and a grinder. We can make anything fit, but we'll see if we end up utilizing this exhaust. It's possible that I might be able to cut. The easiest thing might be to just cut this. I guess I can't remember if these are even supposed to be welded in place. It's an old enough car it came off of. It could have been welded, but worst case, cut those, grind them, and rotate it to where we need it. So we've got a full exhaust for it. We've got all the brackets. We even got a spare AC hose. This bracket was actually kind of the star of things that we needed for a while. So since this car is a 1988 model year, the subframe's different. And because it's different, we need a different motor mount. So this is the 88 V6 motor mount bracket. It's a 1 year only part I had to track down. So this will allow us, this is kind of the linchpin, the big thing that was going to keep us from putting an engine in this car. I managed to track one down. Here's the crank. There's not a lot to say about it. It seems like it's in okay shape. It's not horribly scarred up. It doesn't have a ton of damage to the bearings. It's kind of dirty right now, or to the bearing surfaces, the journals. I think it'll be okay. We'll slap some bearings in it and put it together and see how it goes. This is a stock fuel rail, but these are larger fuel injectors out of a 3.4 Camaro V6 out of one of my old swaps. They should help with that comp cam to keep everything kind of happy. Moving back around, we've got a little more bracketry and pulleys and things of that nature down in there. We've got our oil pan with our oil pump and all of its accessories. And just a little more in the way of parts. So this is all going to be, let's see, what is this? Rear main seal. Got it. This one's a Chevrolet GMC timing cover, water pump, fuel pump, mounting oil pan, bunch of gaskets, intake gasket set, standard size main rod bearings. That out, and oil pan gasket. Come back over here to this one. Pull this out. Push that. We got a nice set of valve cover gaskets and a new Cloy's timing set. So we're getting close. We're getting really, truthfully, kind of dangerously close to doing this. Last couple things that we need to source or get put together are going to be head bolts and lifters, which anybody who's put together an engine the last few years or been familiar at all with any of the nonsense going on with lifters and camshafts going flat knows that that's a point to be nervous about, but we'll see how it all comes together. But parts are piling up, and this engine will hopefully, within the next, before this year's out, will find its way into this car, and then we'll have 2 6-cylinder Fieros, and one of them being one of the more desirable 1988 model year. Real quick, guys, I wanted to show you kind of the final, I guess for now, final installation. I went ahead and took a spare USB-C cable and ran it up in with the others, tucked it through just like it, brought it up, and tucked it like that. So while it's not perfectly ideal, let me show you, it does work. So put the car over. Got everything we need. So it is working. We'll just have to see about that. I don't mind this too much, but I really did kind of actually like having the cigarette lighter stuck in there. Just, it looked nicer. So what I might actually end up doing is installing a separate power outlet somewhere else on the car, behind the seat or under the dash, something to run that power cord, and that way cigarette lighter can go back here. Unless FiTech comes back with something groundbreaking about what's going on with that cord. I'm fairly certain what they're going to tell me is, well, I guess your cord's not providing enough power. You can either buy another one and roll your dice that's the issue, or maybe your unit just for some reason is a half a volt short, and so you're just kind of SOL and have to run that extra cable. So in any case, just wanted to show y'all the way that came out. Well, cool, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. It's not the most riveting of content today, but it is just kind of all the nitty-gritty stuff that's involved in making this stuff work. I was kind of excited to get a chance to actually work on the Fiero again. I hadn't really had anything to do for a while, and I've been putting off replacing that oil controller for a long time. I still don't have an answer from FiTech regarding the power outlet, the connector issue.
Right now it's stable. Right now it works. It's taking inputs. It's making adjustments, and it seems to be working. So we'll drive it. We'll see how it does. Again, I don't expect FiTech to actually tell me much of anything other than, well, if it's working now, it's working now. So we'll see. And I was glad I was able to give you a little bit of an update on this. We are actually getting extremely close. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a few more odds and ends we need. Like I said, I need to get head bolts. I need to get lifters for it. And there's a few more odds and ends. There's some issues I need to figure out as far as obviously whatever's going on between downpipe and the actual exhaust system. You figure out what's going on with. I've got a harness that we're going to try and make work, but it's technically for an earlier car. Now that opens up some options for ECMs that aren't married to like a 1 year only ECM, but it does mean that we're playing with pinouts and trying to make sure that the pinouts connect correctly. I know in particular there's something to do with the starter connection being on a different pin. So we'll get to all that. I'll do the whole swap will be probably a couple different videos. We'll do a video on the build for the engine. We actually put it together. We'll do at least one video on the removal, and it'll probably be a video for install because you'd be talking. It's probably be an hour minimum for each one of those things. So, but I'm excited. So we got stuff coming along. Things are getting there. With that being said, please like, comment, subscribe, things like that. It gets more content. It gets more traffic to the channel. It gets more people to watch it, and then the more that eventually someday maybe comes up enough that there's enough people that we can do either a Patreon or it can monetize through YouTube. Maybe there's some money to do some actual cool stuff. In the meantime, I'll just keep fiddling around with what I've got, and you get to enjoy watching it. So, or at least I hope you do. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.